There goes a bear. Black bear running straight up the trail. Wow.
The bear ran away when it first saw me, which is what they're supposed to do, right? I gave it some space, waited, and it stopped about 100 meters or so down the trail and then just turned around and stared right at me. I changed direction to kind of work around it. It moved to match me. I changed direction again. It followed again.
Right there on the trail, looking at me. Hello. Hi. What you gonna do there, big fella?
First time in all my years in the backcountry that I actually had the safety off of my bear spray. And I genuinely did not know what was coming next. I turned around and I walked back to the trailhead and canceled a trip that I've been planning for a while. Now, most of us carry a mental model for reading bear behavior that was built for a specific population, one that had consistently healthy wariness of humans, bears that ran. That population has changed, and the framework most of us are still running hasn't kept up. Are there actually more bears out there right now? And does that change anything about how you should be moving through bear country? Yes, and yes. But here's what's harder to say out loud. What's changed isn't the bears, it's us. And that's a harder conversation. Let me show you exactly what the data says and where our behavior stopped keeping pace with it.
Grizzly bear now running. Where you going, Billy? Let's hope he's not running this way. He is running this way. Not good.
This has been a loud summer for bears online. Viral videos, comment sections kind of splitting in half. She did everything right, she did everything wrong. Everyone argues until the next video comes along and we start the whole thing over. A lot of heat, but not a lot of light. But underneath all that noise, something real is happening, and I think it's worth actually looking at directly. A friend of mine was out on an old trail nearby, not too far from here a few weeks ago. Different province than I'm in, different activity, but came around a bend and there was a grizzly bear on the trail ahead, chuffing, swaying, standing up on its hind legs. Took a couple of steps toward him, but then it stopped, turned, and eventually moved off. His safety was off the spray at that moment as well, until he was well clear of the area. I think what he said in his message to me was something like, "The bear made the right decision for all of us." It did. Around the same time, a post went up on a Facebook group I follow where they had a tagged problem grizzly circling a campsite nearby. Conservation officers called, came on the scene, assessed it.
Bear's right in the middle of the frame. I'm a ways off. I mean, well, I'm not that far off.
And separately, a black bear that decided to walk alongside a hiker on the trail rather than leave. Sounds familiar. Listen, I've received more messages from people this summer with their own version of one of these types of stories than in any other year I can remember. Something is different, and it's actually documented.
Okay, so that bear, I did pass it, but it's now coming this way. I'm pretty sure it wanted to go the other way, and now it's kind of, I think, interested in me. I mean, not, I don't mean it that way, but, just kind of trying to figure out what I'm doing.
The numbers are more specific than Crazy Bear Year, and they also start answering the harder question about whose behavior is actually driving this.
Yeah, there it is. Beautiful bear. Hard to see on video.
Kind of
oh, wow.
cinnamon brown bear.
You see a hump?
Yeah, it's a grizz.
It's a grizz? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Let me anchor this properly before I throw some numbers at you, okay? Since 1900, in all of North America, 67 people have died from bear attacks as I make this video. Total. In over 100 years. So you're not hearing wrong. Death by bear is statistically rare. So I'm not here to tell you to stop going outside, right? But hold on to that number, because what comes next doesn't change what bear country is. It changes how you need to approach it.
All right, I think the bear may have gone off in there somewhere. I don't know. It looks like it may have stopped following me, which is good.
In Canada, grizzly bear attacks from 2020 to 2025 have already outpaced the total documented in any previous decade on record. Not matched, outpaced. 5 years versus 10. Sightings up 5 consecutive years. Attacks at a multi-decade high. 67 deaths in over 100 years, right? And we're on pace to make the next decade look nothing like the last. That's the actual risk, not death by bear. An encounter environment that has changed faster than the information most people are relying on. I know there's a lot of folks online, especially on the Facebook page for this trail, talking about, oh, you don't need bear spray, you don't need bear spray. Folks, you need bear spray. One more thing worth flagging on the calendar right now because timing matters. We're in July. Bears are active, but they're not at peak persistence yet. From late August through October, hyperphagia changes that situation significantly. Bears need to accumulate enough fat to survive the winter, so their range expands, their tolerance for anything between them and food shifts in ways that are worth understanding before you plan a fall trip. So what we're seeing right now is the preview, not the peak. I've got a full video on what hyperphagia actually means for how you move through bear country. The link is in the description. I'm going to flash it up right here because if you are heading out in September or October into bear country, I think you should watch that video before you head out. So why is this happening? Some of it's bears, but most of it is us. 3 forces, and I'm going to talk about them in the order of how much we can actually do something about them. First, population recovery. Conservation efforts over the last 4 decades have worked. Grizzly populations have recovered meaningfully from their lows of the mid-20th century. That's a genuine success, but it also means more bears are in the places we hike and camp, which is exactly what successful conservation looks like in practice, in real life. Number 2, there are more of us. More trail miles walked every year, more backcountry permits issued every year, more overlap between where we go and where the bears live. That equation isn't really complicated, right? And number 3 is habituation. This is the one that matters most, and this one is on us. A bear that grew up in the backcountry in the 1980s learned through consistent experience that humans were a threat, so it ran, it gave distance. It treated the trail as something to move away from. But a bear that grows up now in that same corridor sees hundreds of hikers a season, and it's learning something quite different. It's learning that humans are not dangerous, that stepping off the trail isn't always necessary, and in some cases, that humans mean food, directly from poorly stored camp supplies, or indirectly from the infrastructure that follows wherever we go in numbers. Here's what we need to be honest about. Habituation doesn't just happen to bears. We train it into them. Every group that walks past at 50 meters without making noise. Every camp where food isn't properly stored. Every hiker who closes the distance for a better photo and gets away with it. That accumulates. Bears learn from it. And what they learn shapes every encounter that comes after, including mine and including yours. That bear at Watchtower didn't charge, wasn't overtly stressed, and it still followed me in 2 different directions. That is an habituated animal, one that learned from experience, from us, that humans are not a threat worth moving away from. And it was doing something fundamentally different with my presence than the behavior most of us were taught to read. Population recovery puts more bears out there. More people create more overlap. Habituation changed how those bears behave in that overlap. And we're responsible for 2 of the 3.
Basically, if a bear doesn't move off a trail, you're not going on the trail, right? So he's still not far enough off a trail that I feel comfortable moving forward.
More bears, more people, more encounters. That's the context. But here is where we made it worse. Here's what concerns me most about this summer. At exactly the moment when bear encounters are becoming more frequent, the information environment around bear safety is getting worse. Not because good information doesn't exist, it does. But people are increasingly pulling their bear safety knowledge from Facebook comment threads, viral video comment sections, and strangers in hiking groups whose credentials are entirely unknown. The problem is simple. You have no way of knowing whether the person typing that comment knows what they're talking about. None. That Facebook post I mentioned, the bear walking alongside the hiker on the trail, in the comments, someone offered this. If it was walking beside you or behind you, as in hiking with you, that is very dangerous. That is stalking behavior, and those are the most dangerous bears because they're assessing you to eat you. Okay, now, that may be right, it might not be right, but that's the whole issue. You genuinely don't know. The person who wrote that might have decades of bear country experience. They might be recalling something they read once. They might be completely wrong. assessing you to eat you? That is not how bear safety science categorizes the following behavior that's being described there. The documented framework distinguishes predatory attacks from defensive encounters very specifically, and most following behavior does not fit the predatory category cleanly. But you wouldn't know that from reading it in a comment section. It sounds authoritative. It gets shared. The Kananaskis encounter that circulated this summer, the one that's viral, you've probably seen it with the woman in the parking area, the grizzly, the dog, she's yelling at it. A lot of people watched that video and concluded that she did everything right. The bear moved off, she was fine, right? Outcome equals the correct approach, doesn't it? No, not necessarily. Survival is not a validated approach. It means that bear, on that day, made a particular decision. There are things about that encounter that bear safety educators would flag immediately. I know I did, but those flags don't make it into the comment section because a survival outcome ends the conversation online. So people reverse engineer that outcome into advice. That advice gets shared and received as wisdom, and the next person who follows it may not get the same outcome. We're in a moment where encounters are increasing and information quality is declining at the same time. That combination has consequences.
Grizzly bear. He's hightailing it.
A bear safety educator speaking to Global News about this exact pattern put it plainly, and I'm going to quote what she said. These interactions will continue to increase because we humans are not doing our jobs to be safe in their environment. And that sentence is the whole conversation. It's not because bears are getting worse. It's because we're not adjusting. The population is recovering, the trails are busier, and the information environment is a mess. And we keep walking out there with a confidence the data no longer fully supports. It's not an indictment, it's a description of a gap. And understanding where that gap actually lives is the first step to closing it. And the problem isn't just online. It's standing on the trail right in front of us.
Well, there's that bear. I just kind of snuck up on it. Hey, bear. Hello. There you go. Hi. Can you smell me? I know you can hear me.
Most of us carry a mental model that goes something like this. If it hasn't charged, I'm fine. If it ran when it first saw me, I'm good. If it's not being overtly aggressive, I'll just push through. But that model was built for a bear population with a healthy wariness of humans. It's not holding up the same way with habituated animals. Here's what bear safety science actually says about a bear that holds a sight line and tracks your movement. Quote, it has not made a decision to leave, and the absence of a charge is not clearance to proceed. Let me say it again. It has not made a decision to leave, and the absence of a charge is not clearance to proceed. Those are two different things, and conflating them is where people get into trouble. A bear moving away quickly, putting real distance between itself and you and not looking back, that's a bear that's made a decision, right? A bear that stops, holds your sight line, and does not move off is still in an active assessment. You don't know what it's going to do. Neither does it yet. Back at Watchtower, the bear ran first. The old mental model says, all right, the bear ran, I'm good. But it didn't keep going. It stopped at a close range, turned around and stared. I tried to work around it. It moved to match me. I changed direction again, and it matched me again. No charge, no bluff, no overt aggression. Sorry. Just an animal that was not clearing the trail the way a bear with a healthy wariness of humans would clear it. And it was tracking my movement with an intentionality, as I call it. The it didn't charge framework completely misses. So that's habituated behavior in the field. It's not dramatic. It's not the charge people picture when they imagine a dangerous bear encounter. It's just a bear that has learned from accumulated experience from us that humans are not something to move away from. And when you're running the old mental model, you misread it. You make the wrong call. You push through when you shouldn't. I turned around. I walked back to the trailhead. Taxi, shuttle money already spent. I walked right back to the trailhead to spend it all over again. Double the money. Because my job in the backcountry is to read what's actually in front of me, not the version I was expecting.
Grizzly bear's just seen us. Yeah, okay.
All of that leads to one practical question. What do you actually do when you're standing there in the moment? 3 questions. That's the whole framework.
It's coming down that ditch. Yeah. All right, we'll keep an eye on him.
3 questions. The goal is to slow your brain down at the exact moment it most wants to freeze or push through. First question, how did the bear react when it first saw you? Did it run? That's a healthy default behavior. Did it stop, stand and stare without moving off? Okay, you're not done reading the situation yet. Or did it move toward you? Or did it hold its ground entirely without giving distance? All right, that's the point you take the safety off the spray and make yourself known, a little bigger. Start moving back slowly or stand your ground and know which one of those you have to do in that situation. There is a video here, how to handle a bear encounter, that lets you know when to move and when to hold your ground. It's worth knowing whether you watch this video here or get the information from an expert online.
I think it's seen us.
Yeah, just wanted to get away from us.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's going up the hill. It's a lot of work for the bear, really.
2, is it giving you distance or is it closing it, right? Is it getting closer or moving away? A bear that runs off 100 meters and settles into the brush probably made a decision. A bear that lingers at 50 meters, kind of holds your sight line and doesn't move off, that's a whole different situation. Safe passage is not about whether it charged, it's about whether the path ahead of you is actually clear.
Yep, grizzly bear. Grizzly bear going up the bank. God be alone, please.
Okay, wait a minute and see if any cubs come up.
And 3 is kind of tricky. What might be behind the bear? You don't have to see cubs. You don't have to smell a carcass. But if a bear's not giving ground, you know, the way it should, there's probably a reason. So don't push through to find out what that reason is. Wait. If any of those 3 answers give you a pause, give the bear the trail. Turn around. Come back another day. The mountain's not going anywhere, as I always say. That was the decision at Watchtower, right? As I said, paid for my permits, paid for a rather expensive shuttle, and then paid for it again so I could get back to my car, which was on the other side of a mountain range, but it was the right call. My job that day was to make the decision that kept me safe in that environment. That is the job.
There's the bear, right there in the middle of the frame.
I see it too.
It's alone.
I want to reiterate, the bear safety educator, speaking to Global News, said something I keep coming back to. These interactions will continue to increase because we humans are not doing our jobs to be safe in their environment. That's why I keep making these videos. Not because bears are monsters, they're doing exactly what they've always done. Living in an area that increasingly overlaps with where we want to go. The population recovery is a genuine success. The habituation is a consequence of how we've behaved in that recovery. The misinformation is a consequence of where we've chosen to learn from. And none of this is inevitable, it's all adjustable. But it requires us to actually do the work. Know your spray before you need it. Understand what habituated behavior looks like in the field. Vet your sources. And when a bear isn't giving you the trail, give it the trail. You don't have to stay home, but the way you move through the backcountry has to keep pace with how things actually are right now, not the version that most of us first learned. There are links in the description to the full videos here on bear safety, where to set up camp in bear country, and if this raised more questions, those go deeper. Drop your encounters in the comments, where you were, what you saw, how you read it, what did the bear do? I am literally going to keep track of this summer and see if we can put together our own kind of tracking of what's going on in bear country. And for goodness sake, as I said earlier, just a second ago, vet your sources. Community forums, you don't know who the experts are. So just be careful with all the misinformation and we can do a better job out there. Questions or comments, as I said, leave them in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.